Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube as well as on Rumble at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, howdy, goodness gracious, do we have quite a show today. We have a lot to talk about. First off, the Iranian regime is pretty much in complete and total tatters right now, on the cusp of total implosion, really. Defections are skyrocketing. All of the IRGC leaders keep on getting taken out in targeted strikes. And actually, I kid you not, we just got a report a couple hours ago suggesting that whatever's left of the regime would actually be willing to negotiate to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but that they're afraid to negotiate for fear of getting taken out in a targeted strike as well. So we're going to break down that entire situation. The British, our allies, the British, have actually officially allowed the United States military to start using their British Royal Air Force air bases for bombing runs against the Iranian regime. This is big news. This is a development. They've decided to do this in direct defiance of the Iranian regime's warning that if they do so, if they allow the U.S. to operate bombing runs out of Royal Air Force bases, that then the Brits will become a target as well. So we're going to break that down as well. Still, though, President Trump earlier this morning on Truth Social went what can only be described as absolutely scorched earth on our NATO allies and their continuing reluctance to get more directly involved in support of our operation against Iran and the ongoing endeavor to reopen the Hormuz. So we're going to take a look at President Trump's post. Like I said, scorched earth. Right now, everyone is also on the internet, in the media, talking about, really sort of panicking about the possibility of an all-out ground invasion of Iran. So we're going to break down all of the information we currently have as it pertains to this supposed ground invasion. Right now, that's the big word on the block. Trump is going to order an invasion. We're going to break that down. Worry not. We also, today, just a couple hours ago, got a big, very strange statement from the Iranian Supreme Leader himself, Mojtaba Khamenei. The Iranians are saying he's still alive, although the statement itself is incredibly curious, to say the least. I'm not convinced that he is alive. The big news yesterday was that he might have actually passed away in a hospital in Iran. So we're going to take a look at his statement. We're going to determine whether or not this seems legit or not legit. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we have really a lot to talk about today. A lot of big stories. If you're new to the show, of course, also rest in peace, Chuck Norris. He was 86 years old, one of my heroes. I think everybody's hero. Chuck Norris, rest in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the show. Welcome to the community. Why don't we go ahead and get right into this? Like I said, the Iranian regime is pretty much in tatters. The Israelis actually carried out this last night a massive series of assassination strikes targeted at key members of the Iranian regime. Big night on the eve of Nowruz. This is the Persian New Year. It's called Nowruz. It was the first day, first night, as multiple senior Islamic Republic commanders in Iran got eliminated overnight. One, Ali Mohammed Naini, the IRGC spokesperson of the IRGC. Esmail Ahmadi Moghadam, the Basij intelligence officer, intelligence chief. Mehdi Garish, Aerospace Forces commander, got taken out. And Kavus Daroud, the Special Forces commander, the commander of the Iranian Special Forces. So, yeah, it's like every single day they keep on losing their top talent. If you can call it talent, their top guys, every single day, there is fewer and fewer and fewer of them. Some more information. Eliminated. Ali Mohammed Naini, the spokesperson and head of the public relations array of the IRGC. Naini served several propaganda and public relations roles, in his role as the IRGC's main propagandist. For the past 2 years, he disseminated the regime's terrorist propaganda to its proxies across the Middle East in order to influence and advance terror attacks against Israel. So he got taken out. Another one here, Mehdi Rostami Shamastan, a key commander of the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence. Wow. Shamastan was a key figure in promoting terrorist activities and attacks against Israel and Jewish civilians around the world. The Ministry of Intelligence is the Iranian terror regime's primary intelligence organization. It's like their version of the CIA. The commander that got taken out and serves as one of the regime's central mechanisms in oppression and terror. And the final one we're going to really take a deeper look at here, eliminated Esmail Ahmadi, head of the intelligence division of the Basij force. I've broken this down before. So the IRGC, they kind of have 5 different legs or categories. The Basij is one of those categories of the IRGC. The Basij is sort of it's non-compulsory. People can choose to sign up. It's voluntary. So anybody that's in the Basij, they chose to be there. You don't have to be there. It's voluntary. And the Basij, they really specialize in sort of suppression of the Iranian people. It was the Basij forces, sort of this sect of the IRGC that was responsible for gunning down the 35,000 Iranian protesters 2.5 months ago. They also perhaps are known for having really impressive unibrows. I'm just looking at that guy now. So anyway, the head of the intelligence division of the Basij force, as well as several other senior commanders in a strike on the senior leadership of the Basij force in the heart of Tehran. Ahmadi, who just got taken out, played a central role in advancing and executing terror attacks carried out by the Basij forces. He was also responsible for enforcing public order and the regime's values on behalf of the IRGC and leading major suppression operations during the recent internal protests in Iran. So fair to say, the blood of the innocent was on this guy's hands, and now he's been taken out. So Israel continues to pick these guys apart. We have another update here. This is coming out of Israel. An Israeli military analyst named Ron Ben Yishai says Israel could wrap the campaign in Iran in about 2 weeks. But reopening the Strait of Hormuz is a longer play that likely keeps the U.S. engaged beyond that timeline. He assesses the regime has been hit hard but remains operational, with the IRGC sort of stepping and attempting to step in to stabilize control of the country. And we've seen that, of course. On the ground, Israel is tracking signs of internal strain, confusion in Iran, and growing defections, particularly within the Basij. We've seen confirmation proof, a lot of reports as well of these defections. Defections are happening. In fact, we spoke yesterday about how the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's able to track how these Iranian regime defectors are now attempting to wire whatever money they have out of the country. They're trying to wire the money out of the country. They defect. They're trying to flee the country so they can start anew. Maybe they're going to some of them are going to try to take their money and go live out the rest of their days in Malaysia or the Philippines or, I don't know, somewhere else, right? Try to start a new life. All right, Iran is over. The regime is over. I'm packing my bags. I'm taking my money. I'm wiring it out and I'm out. Seems to be a lot of that, okay? So anyway, on the ground, Israel's tracking signs of internal strain, confusion, and growing defections, particularly within the Basij. The expectation is that pressure could spill over into internal unrest once the war winds down. This seems to be the strategy the U.S. and Israel were applying so much pressure that we will then create the circumstances on the ground in Iran for the Iranian people to, at a certain point, to rise up and try to take back their own country. So destroy as much of the IRGC, the Basij, the Iranian regime as we can. Also empower the Iranian people such that we can kind of flip, turn the scales here to empower the Iranians so much that then they can rise up on their own and take back their own country. That kind of seems to be one of the big plans right now. Speaking of taking out members of the IRGC, of the Basij, Iranian sources a couple hours ago today came out and confirmed, this is coming out of Iran, that 13 members of the Basij were killed and 18 others were recently wounded in attacks on checkpoints in Tabriz. Tabriz is up here in northwest Iran. Right up there it is, right there. So far up in the northwest. So, keep in mind, Iran is a country that is almost 2.5 times the size of Texas. It's a big country. It's not a small country. And so these attacks, these targeted strikes, these decapitation strikes, they're taking place literally everywhere. North, south, east, west. And it seems like they're getting taken out. Now, what's more, a series of U.S. airstrikes took place today. I want to show you something. A U.S. airstrike hit the IRGC's Keshem Island Tunnel Complex. Real quick, I just want to show you where we're talking about. Folks, this is Keshem Island. You might notice it is pretty much smack dab right in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz. It's this big, long island. It's actually pretty big. It's, if I had to guess, probably 30 miles or 35 miles in length. Maybe at most 10 miles in width from there to there. So it's a big island. Anyway, the United States carried out a series of airstrikes on this island, Keshem Island, targeting a series of tunnel complexes, leaving craters and damage to nearby facilities, but this report says ultimately failing to breach the hardened underground tunnels, leaving key assets likely intact. What does that mean? That means that we're probably going to have to drop a couple more bombs on this island, on these bunkers on the island. The facility, which is used for boats, missiles, and drones, appears to be operational or at a minimum quickly repairable. So we dropped a couple bombs. It wasn't enough. I would suppose we're going to see some bunker buster bombs get dropped on this island here pretty soon. Now, I want to show you something here. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. Last night, it was late at night. I was sitting here alone in my office, and I was just kind of poking around, incidentally, Keshem Island. And I was wondering, I wonder if they have any bunkers or compounds that we can see, all of us civilians here on Google Maps. And I kid you not, within about 90 seconds, I found a series of Iranian bunkers on Google Maps on this island. You want me to show you? Like, this happened to be the first place, right here, I zoomed in. Well, I'll be damned. What do you think those are? Once again, this is Keshem Island, right here on the coast, facing the Strait of Hormuz. You zoom in. Well, what do you think those are? So I'm thinking, if we can see these, and you can tell those are bunkers right there. I don't know exactly what they're storing in there, but we can see them. This is public information, effectively. Now, I'm thinking, okay, if a guy like me, if people like us can find this, we can see these bunkers on Google Maps, the U.S. military or the Israelis or whoever else, that they're spotting stuff like this and they are blowing the living hell out of them. Now, I am sure this is just what I happen to see here. I am sure that there are bunker complexes like this all over the damn place. I don't know. I didn't really look that hard, but I'm sure that if you spent some time scouring along the coastline here of Keshem Island, you would find bunkers just like those probably everywhere if you really took the time to look. So pretty astounding. Those are the type of things that the U.S. military is trying to take out right this very moment. Literally, probably literally right this very moment. In fact, take a look at this. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, actually just released footage of a series of strikes. Guess what? On underground tunnel entrances and missile launch sites at Iran's Hajiabad base near the Strait of Hormuz. Near the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, well, where the hell is the Hajiabad base? Can we pull this up? You guys know I'm a visual leerer. So it's a little bit north. It's a little bit further inland. There's a town up here called Hajiabad. Hajiabad. Probably can't be that bad. Anyway, or maybe it is. So here's the Strait of Hormuz, a little bit inland here. How far? I don't know, probably 55 miles or so inland. There's some military base, some IRGC base. I couldn't tell you exactly where. Probably burrowed into the hills out here. Who the hell knows? The Iranians, they love to dig their tunnels and build their bunkers. Anyway, so the U.S. Military just carried out a series of airstrikes on a bunker complex right outside of that town. Well, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that? We're about to see some fireworks here. Oh, you see it coming in right there. That's one hell of a targeted strike. You see that? Wow. I'm going to replay that if you missed it. And there's another one. Uh-huh. You know, in a lot of ways, I suppose you really don't have to blow up the entire bunker. As long as you blow up the entrance to the bunker, you can't get in or out. You just make the bunker complex inoperable. And that's not the perfect solution, but, you know, temporarily, I think it's sufficient. It'll get the job done, at least for a time. Look at that. You can see. Wow. Look at that. You can see it coming in. You see that? Look on the left side. That's some type of U.S. missile or rocket or God knows what coming in. And there's the entrance. Blow it up. Cave in the entrance. Nobody's going in or out. So they hit one of them there. Super fascinating. Another one. So this is footage coming out of CENTCOM. So when we're talking about blowing up bunkers, this is kind of what we're talking about. This is a little bit, a taste of what we were talking about, if you will. Now, we also got a report today, Justin, this is coming out of Axios. The Trump administration is currently weighing plans to either seize or blockade Iran's Karg Island to pressure Tehran into reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Now, of course, everybody, we all know about Karg Island at this point. 90% of the Iranian oil gets pumped out of this island. They call it Oil Island. And so Trump, allegedly, is weighing his options. Do we either try to seize the island? That would be kind of boots on the ground or boots on the island. Seize it. Or do we just blockade it? Do we blockade the island? Who knows? Meaning no ships going in or out. And of course, you know, I suppose it's a complex dynamic here. I want to show you something here. So this island is connected through a series of pipes to the Iranian mainland. In fact, you can see all of these lines in the sand. These are pipes. This one here specifically, you can see it goes under, it connects up on, it comes out of the ground on this island. There's the pipe right there. There's Iranian oil pumping through that thing probably right now. Runs across this island called Karko, and then ultimately connects up with the mainland right out here in Bandar Ganeva. So anyway, all types of pipes pumping oil to the island. And then the oil gets stored in these oil storage facilities, ultimately pumped out through another series of pipes. Take a look at this. Onto these oil tankers. And that's I mean, it's really, really complex. Take a look at that. And then they've got another facility just slightly offshore. Okay. And so, you know, I suppose Trump right now is considering, well, I suppose if we really don't want to put boots on the island, we could just blockade the island and prevent these ships from going in or out, picking up oil and shipping it out. We could just blockade the island without even putting a single boot on the island. Could be the case. Now, this is a big topic that we're really going to break down today. Take a look at this. While we're talking about Karg Island, the White House officials say that the U.S. Army, not the Marines, everybody's been talking about the Marines, that the U.S. Army is capable of seizing this island at any time. They say at any time they want, the U.S. Army could take this island. Now, something to keep in mind here when we're talking about Karg Island. We've been talking about all of these Marines. Somewhere maybe 5,000 Marines are currently en route to the CENTCOM area. Well, let's just think about this here at a basic level. In order for U.S. Marines to get anywhere near this island, well, they've got to sail through the Strait of Hormuz, right? The Strait of Hormuz is kind of shut down right now. Is Trump going to send a bunch of U.S. naval vessels loaded to the brim with U.S. Marines and various other members of the U.S. Navy and otherwise through the Hormuz and potentially put them at risk of getting hit by an Iranian drone or an Iranian ballistic missile? Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Probably not. This report we just saw said the U.S. Army is capable at any moment to take this island. And the U.S. Army, you think, well, maybe we're talking about some type of airborne division. I don't know. I looked into this. Are there any right now U.S. airborne brigades in this area. Well, actually, right this very moment, the U.S. Army 173rd Airborne Brigade, consisting of right around 3,300 soldiers, is actually currently, right now, already forward deployed in Europe. And so it might be the plan, perhaps, to actually not have the Marines take this island, but to have a bunch of members of the 173rd, or maybe I think the 82nd is still back here in the U.S. right now. Anyway, to have some airborne brigade, I don't know, strap into a bunch of parachutes and parachute down onto the island. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Could be the case, but keep in mind, in order for these Marines to get anywhere near the island, they got to go through the Hormuz. And that's kind of the entire complication. The entire point of taking the island is to put pressure on the Iranian regime to reopen the Hormuz. So it's a complex dynamic here. This report says the U.S. Army could take this island at any time. Okay. We're getting more information on the table here. We have another report coming out of Bloomberg today. Bloomberg citing a U.S. official with knowledge on the matter. U.S. President Donald J. Trump has, quote, no plans currently to deploy U.S. troops in Iran, specifically Iran's strategically and economically important Karg Island, but caveated the statement by saying that the U.S. will retain the ability to do so. So according to an insider coming through Bloomberg, Trump currently has no plans to deploy any troops anywhere. And I kind of believe this. I believe that perhaps because President Trump himself yesterday, we saw the clip. This is when he was in the Oval Office talking to the Japanese prime minister. He was asked very bluntly, President Trump, sir, do you have plans to deploy troops, boots on the ground in Iran? And Trump said something very curious. What did he say? He said, no, it's not currently the plan, but if it was, I most certainly wouldn't tell you about it. And that's, of course, like, duh, yeah. So we've been hearing from the Trump administration for, three weeks now or more that it is not part of the plan to deploy troops, but we're not ruling it out. We're not going to tell you, CNN journalist, about it, most certainly. So it could happen, but it's not currently part of the plan. Okay, I guess you have to take Trump at face value there. Let's keep on going in. Now, of course, we have these Marines coming in. The Pentagon is sending 3 warships and thousands of additional Marines to the Middle East, even as President Trump insists that it's not currently part of the plan to put American boots on the ground in Iran. So we know at this point, it is a fact of the matter, there are currently en route right around 5,000 Marines on the way, heading towards CENTCOM. Now, the first batch of U.S. Marines, we got news maybe 2 days ago that they just passed through the Strait of Malacca. The Malacca Strait, they were previously stationed over here somewhere in the Asia area, South China Sea, Southwest Pacific. So they headed over, they passed right off the coast of Singapore, they headed through the Strait of Malacca. And so at this point, you might take a guess, they might be closer to Sri Lanka now. But that's the first 2,500 Marines. We got a report yesterday, maybe a day and a half ago, that guess what? Another 2,500 Marines were heading into the CENTCOM area from the west coast of the U.S. However, now that I really say this out loud, I think about it. Is it possible that this second batch of 2,500 Marines that just left the west coast maybe 36 hours ago, is it possible that they are actually not headed towards CENTCOM? Is it possible that they are actually coming over here to the Southwest Pacific to replace the first batch of Marines that just left the Southwest Pacific heading towards the CENTCOM area? So we might be actually, rather than doubling down, sending 5,000 to CENTCOM, we might only be sending 2,500, and then the second 2,500, they're replacing the first 2,500 in this region right here. That could also be the case. Rather than 5,500 inbound to CENTCOM, Could be the case because now that I really think about it, we actually don't know exactly where that second 2,500 are headed. They might be replacing the first batch. Could be the case. Could be the case. We're just kind of covering our bases. Apologies. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. That's my favorite part of the show. Thank you all very much for bearing with me. Now, let's keep on working through the information here. What else do we have? Fox News reports this morning that a U.S. official confirms the amphibious group, including USS Boxer and 4,500 Marines, are heading to the Middle East. So this report here says 4,500 Marines. It's not. It's 2,500 Marines plus another 2,000 service members that are accompanying the Marines. So I think this headline is a little bit misleading. But no, we know for a fact the first 2,500 are on the way. We know that to be the case. We're going to keep on breaking through this. Folks, what we're about to look at right now has everybody losing their mind. This report we're about to break down, everybody's panicking. Are you ready? So let's get through this. Do not panic. Everybody maintain a level head here. We're going to break it down. Make sure to like and subscribe, by the way. If you're new to the show, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Let's get into it. This report today is going viral. Pentagon officials have made detailed preparations for deploying U.S. ground forces into Iran, with senior military commanders having submitted specific requests aimed at preparing for such an option if such a decision is made by President Trump. Multiple sources briefed on the discussions told CBS News. Now, this news is going viral. Like I said, it's not just CBS. It's almost every single big outlet is talking about this today. Preparations include how to handle possible detention of Iranian soldiers and paramilitary operatives, such as where Iranian prisoners of war would be sent, two sources said, with the U.S. Army's Immediate Response Force, the IRF, under the 82nd Airborne Division, and roughly 5,000 Marines from 11th and 31st Marine Expeditionary Units deploying to the Middle East. So right now, people are seeing this headline. Oh my gosh, the Pentagon has a plan to deploy boots on the ground into Iran. You understand how people see that. They see the headline and they lose their minds. Now, of course, okay, who am I to say? I can't say whether or not there will be a mass deployment into Iran. I hope not, frankly, I hope not. However, as much as I hope there is not a massive troop deployment into Iran, I think we're all kind of on the same page there. It would be incompetent if the Pentagon or the U.S. military did not have a plan in the event that that order was given. We've got military planners and military strategists in the U.S. military and in the Pentagon that make a lot of money. They're highly respected. It's their job to have a plan, a contingency for everything, for every single possible outcome. I would be concerned if they did not have a plan for this, frankly. Folks, the U.S. military, we've got plans to nuke China. Okay, if President Trump gives the order to fire intercontinental nuclear warhead ballistic missiles towards China, what's the plan? Does that mean that we're going to nuke China? No, of course not. I hope not. I hope not. But the point is, I'm using a hyperbolic example here. There are plans for everything. It doesn't mean that the plan is going to end up getting put into action. Okay, so this is the headline that has every single person frantically panicking today. You got to have plans for everything. You got to have contingencies upon contingencies upon contingencies upon contingencies. So that's one of the big reports of the day. I wanted to get through that. Breaking news. This is another one of the massive stories of today, folks. You are not going to believe this. Breaking news. Iranian officials, those that are still alive, have, quote, become reluctant to even discuss reopening the Strait of Hormuz, as right now they are focused on surviving U.S. and Israeli airstrikes. This is coming to us through Bloomberg. And so what's the implication here? Well, the implication is that perhaps Iranian officials actually would be willing to negotiate reopening the Hormuz. Okay, let's talk about reopening it up. What's it going to take? Let's do it. But right now, they're actually scared to negotiate because if they negotiate, they've got to pick up a phone or connect to the internet or take a step out of their bunker. Right now, many of them, I would imagine, are hiding in very deep bunker complexes under the mountains or under the ground. If they want to negotiate with the US, they've got to pick up their phone and we can trace where that call's coming from. They've got to connect to the internet. We can trace where their internet connection is coming from. We can identify exactly the second they use like any technology at all to reach out to us, we can determine exactly where they are. We can pinpoint them, triangulate the position, or they've got to step out of their bunker, physically leave the bunker in order to engage in some sort of communication with the US or Israel. And so seems like some of them might be willing to do that, to negotiate to reopen the Hormuz, but they're kind of wary because they're afraid that they're going to get blown up also. And you know what? In their defense, that's somewhat of a valid concern, by the way, because we have been blowing up pretty much everyone. So who knows? Maybe President Trump is going to receive this report today and say, okay, you know what? Maybe we're going to give them a 24-hour window. Okay, 24 hours. The bombs are going to stop. The missiles are going to stop. Reach out to us if you are in charge of anything in the country, if you think you can help get the Hormuz reopened. All right, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud again. Maybe he'll give them a little bit of a negotiatory reprieve to try to open up the Hormuz. Maybe not. But this report comes out today. This is where President Trump sends a very bombastic, heated, scorched earth message to NATO and all of our allies in NATO. Take a look at this. President Trump posted this just about 5 hours ago. He said, and I quote, "Without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now that the fight is already militarily won, with very little danger to them, they complain about the high oil prices that they are now being forced to pay. But still, they don't want to help open up the Strait of Hormuz. A simple military maneuver that is the single reason for the high oil prices. It would be so easy for them to do with so little risk. Cowards. And we will remember." President Donald J. Trump. Now, here on this channel, here on this broadcast, we have talked a lot about how President Trump's request for NATO help to get the Hormuz reopened, it's not really even as if he wanted or needed their help. This was a test, and almost all of them have failed. Some of them now, in fact, we're going to talk about this today, some of them have sort of come back around and agreed to help out a little bit in a limited capacity. Seems to be the case. Trump's pressure has worked, but a lot of them, man, they failed the test. For a long time over here in the U.S., Americans, us, we've been saying, what do we get out of NATO? We help out NATO a lot. We really do. We give them a lot of money. We effectively subsidize all of Europe's entire continental defense. We've given almost $500 billion, no strings attached, I believe, somewhere right around $400 billion. This was during the Joe Biden administration. We've given towards the Ukrainian war effort, which is also, according to our NATO member allies, helping protect against Russian aggression. We need to save Europe. And that starts with saving Ukraine. So we've given them, man, a hell of a lot of money. We've been paying, effectively subsidizing, like I said, their entire continental defense for decades now. And so Trump said, okay, you know what? We don't really need their help with the Hormuz, but we're going to throw them a softball. We're going to ask them, listen, hey, Europeans, you guys are getting hurt by this dynamic more than we are over here in the U.S. In the U.S., we are energy independent, okay? Their energy costs are about 50, 60, 70% right now higher than ours are because they are energy importers. We are energy exporters. So Trump decided to throw him a curveball. Will our NATO allies get up and work with us and defend their own interests and work with us to get this reopened when they benefit from it more than we do? And effectively, the resounding answer was no. Almost all of them snubbed the United States of America for the first 2 or 2.5 weeks. It was only in the last 2 days or so that they've kind of started to come around. It seems like these energy prices have jostled them a little bit. Energy prices are going through the roof in Europe. And like I said, they are importers, not exporters. They're getting screwed right now, way more than we are. And so President Trump is calling them out. I don't know. It's going to be very curious to see where this NATO dynamic ends up long term. I think a lot of, not just President Trump, but a lot of us Americans are a little bit disgruntled with this alliance. It seems a little bit lopsided. Seems to benefit them more than it benefits us. When they need our help, we show up. Okay, and we've seen that over the last 4 years with the Ukraine and Russia war. We showed up in full force. However, now that we kind of need their help, but also almost not really, it's like they need to help themselves, really, with this Hormuz situation. They have all kind of said no. All right, noted. Okay, noted. I see how it is. President Trump sees how it is. Now we have more information here. This is where things actually get kind of crazy. Earlier today, the Iranian foreign minister, a guy named Abbas Araghchi, you've all seen him before, in a phone call with Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper to the United Kingdom, the Iranian foreign minister, he said, well, speaking to the Brits, he warned the United Kingdom that allowing the United States to use British military bases would be treated as participation in the United States aggression. So this is in the last day. I want to make this very clear before we move on. The Iranian foreign minister told the Brits that if the Brits allow the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. military at all to use any Royal Air Force air bases, as far as the Iranians are concerned, they would then be participating in United States aggression. Sort of like a warning. It really is not just a warning, it's a threat saying, hey, do not allow the U.S. to work out of your bases, otherwise we're going to be targeting you next. This was a threat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have frankly this is a totally shocking update that I think is going to blow a lot of your minds. Britain, this morning, just about 3 hours ago, in fact, has officially given the United States the green light to use the Royal Air Force Base Fairford and Diego Garcia to carry out raids on Iranian missile sites that are attacking ships in the Hormuz. We officially have the confirmation. In spite of this Iranian warning and Iranian threat, guess what? The Brits today, about 3 hours ago, said, you know what? We are picking our side. We are going to let the United States use our air bases. Now, this report at least mentions 2 bases specifically. What are those 2 bases? Well, the first was an air base up here, actually right about here, somewhere in the mainland of the United Kingdom, right about here. Okay, so now we're allowed to use that air base to conduct our bombing runs. But what's more, perhaps even more geostrategically, the Brits have officially allowed us to use an air base on an island, little island called Diego Garcia. It is right down over here on the British Indian Ocean territory. Zoom in, it's in the middle of the ocean. And it is right here. I'm actually shocked that I found that. So far, the Brits have said, no, you're not allowed to use this Air Force base on this little tiny atoll, little island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Now, as of this morning, we are now allowed to use that. So this is a big deal. If I had to give you my totally unprofessional opinion or my unprofessional guess, why these 2 locations and not other locations? Because keep in mind, there's a Royal Air Force base right here on Cyprus. It's right about here. And this is much closer. This is much, it's actually in the CENTCOM region. So why would the Brits let us use these other two air bases that are much further away, but not Cyprus? Well, if I had to guess, it's because the Brits are trying to hedge their bets. Their angle here is, okay, we're going to let the U.S. use air bases that are out of the strike distance, beyond the strike distance of the Iranians. The Iranians have no capacity to fire anything down here. They can't reach it. Their missiles are not powerful enough. They can't launch anything down here. Similarly, the Iranians can't fire anything this far. They'd have to launch a ballistic missile across all of Europe. Their missiles don't go that far, not yet at least. However, their missiles and drones, they can make their way to Cyprus. And so I think the Brits are trying to help, but also stay a little bit safe here. They're not going to let us use Cyprus because they're worried about retaliatory attacks against Cyprus specifically. But these other two locations, they are going to let us use those ones. So if I had to guess, that would be the case with that. In fact, we have actually seen Iranian drones make their way and do some damage at this Royal Air Force base on Cyprus. So maybe they have a little bit of PTSD about that. They just got blown up about 2 weeks ago. A series of drones did damage. So that might explain kind of the rationale behind why those bases and why not other bases. But anyway, the Brits, they have actually stepped up. This is a big development. It is true. I guess we need to give a little bit. We need to give maybe 1% of credit, maybe a little bit more to the Brits. They've actually co-signed on this a little bit. They're helping out a little bit more now. Now, we also got news. You're not going to believe this. Earlier today, folks, you want to talk about the Iranian regime's diminishing capacity to fire ballistic missiles and rockets. Take a look at this. A series of failed Iranian missile launches were recorded in the mountainous region near Kohistan Park in Yazd, highlighting ongoing instability and regional issues within the regime's missile activity. This was recorded today. So the Iranian regime earlier today, they tried to fire another series of ballistic missiles, and they couldn't even get these things in the air. In fact, it was a total failure to launch. It looks like they tried to fire these things off, and they just kind of exploded the second they lit the fuse, so to speak, figuratively speaking. So what's more, we also have a new report. I want to share this with you. Every single day, we've got various accounts that are tracking how many missiles and how many drones the Iranians are successfully launching. Well, March 19th, this was yesterday, they fired, I believe this is their lowest volume ever. Yeah, if you add it up between the two of them, over here in the bottom right. On March 19th, the Iranians, they were only able to successfully fire 25 ballistic missiles and 45 drones. Not a lot. It's not looking good. You can kind of see the way that this chart is trending. It's going down. Their capacity to fire off these ballistic missiles and suicide drones is also going down every single day. They're Timu Hawks. Yeah, some people call them. It's going down. We have another statement here from the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Officially has rejected U.S. claims about causing major destruction to Iran's air defenses and navy, saying that such a message is detached from reality. Sir, you want to talk about being detached from reality? So we have all seen the news. We've all seen the videos. We have almost entirely destroyed the entire Iranian navy, their air defense systems, their capacity to launch rockets and missiles and drones. We are blowing the living hell out of them. Well, earlier today, the Iranian foreign minister says, nope, that's fake news. Nope, our navy is doing just fine. Nope, our Iranian navy, it's all good. We're doing just fine. Our drones are good. The ballistic missiles are good. Our air defenses, it's all good. There's no problem at all. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. I think you are a little bit delusional, perhaps even detached from reality. Now, also earlier today, the Iranian president came out today and he said this. He issued a message to all of Iran's neighboring countries saying, we are ready to resolve all of our issues with you. Can you call this a type of surrender? Folks, let's just get everything on the canvas here. Okay. The Iranian president comes out today a couple hours ago and says, all right, listen, all of our regional neighbors, We want to resolve our problems. What does that mean? They want to de-escalate. They want this thing to be over with. That's what they want. We also heard that various members of the Iranian regime leadership right now would potentially be willing to open up the Hormuz, but that they are scared to leave their bunkers or pick up the phone because they don't want to get blown up. Seems like they are looking for a way out. That's my unprofessional assessment here. It seems like they are kind of looking to tap out a little bit here. They know that they are losing grip. Defections are going through the roof. People are ditching their posts. Now, this is where we get to a very curious part of today's broadcast. Almost, I said curious, but really like almost comical. Because, ladies and gentlemen, earlier today, for the first time, we have heard an official statement from the current supreme leader of Iran, or rather, maybe his cardboard cutout. We're going to take a look. I need to clue you in on this entire thing. Okay, earlier today, this was about 4 hours ago, he has an official page on X, he has a Twitter account, the Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. He said that he was going on the account, said, I'm going to issue a new statement. It's going to be published here in the next couple minutes. Okay. And then following that, I'm going to issue a big national statement into the world. Okay. Well, following that, then a series of statements were made, and we're not going to read all of these because it's just a bunch of gibby gobby goopy, just frankly a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, he did. He went on, or somebody went on to issue several paragraphs here, statements. Okay, so here's the very curious thing. We got the report. I mean, let's just break down the entire timeline. We know that the Israelis struck him to some degree in a series of airstrikes. He perhaps lost his leg. DNI Tulsi Gabbard yesterday said that we know, U.S. intelligence knows, he was severely wounded. We also know, she said, I believe, that he was in a coma. So we know he was comatose. We know the Israelis hit him and did damage to him, wounded him in a series of airstrikes like 2 or 2.5 weeks ago now. Maybe he lost his leg. There were reports that he was actually flown up across the Caspian Sea up into Russia and was sitting in a hospital in Moscow. Yesterday, this was the breaking news. In fact, I made a video about this emergency breaking news video last night, that he was, in fact, not flown up into Russia, that he remained in a hospital in Tehran. He never left Tehran, and that last night he passed away, that he actually died last night. We had an inside source on the ground in Iran reporting that he died in this coma in a hospital in Tehran last night. So there's all types of stories. And then today, we get to this very curious announcement. He says, I'm going to make a big announcement. And then a series of paragraphs get posted on his Twitter page. We also, at the same time, the Iranian regime released what they said are 2 new photos. Breaking news. Iran's state media, Tasnim News, releases new images of the Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. Allegedly, according to the Iranians, so take that with a whole salt shaker worth of salt. According to the Iranians, these are both new photos. And I mean, hey, he's looking good. He's looking healthy. He doesn't look comatose. He doesn't look like he's missing a leg, although I suppose you can't really see his legs here. He looks like he's in high spirits at a minimum. But here's the problem. We have no idea if these photos are even real. They could be artificial intelligence. They could be generated, of course. These photos also could have been taken 3 years ago, and they were just never posted. They could have been taken 3 years ago, and they just never released them, but now they are releasing the photos for the first time. So we have no idea where in the hell these photos came from. But I can't help but notice, let me become a conspiracy theorist just for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, we got the report that he died. And everybody's been talking about whether or not this guy is dead. For the last 12 hours, that's been the biggest talk in the town. The supreme leader is dead. He died in the coma. Everybody's been talking about it. Well, 12 hours later, the Iranian regime, they log into his account and post a series of paragraphs, a series of posts saying, no, look, he's alive. No, he's fine. He's alive. Look, he's posting on Twitter. In fact, here's a couple photos. I'm sorry, personally. Like I said, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I don't buy it. I think this is a crock of bullshit. Sorry, pardon my tongue here. These posts, did these posts on Twitter mean that he's alive? No, of course not. Anybody could have posted these. Did these photos mean that he's alive? Of course not. No, these photos could be fake or they could have been taken 3 years ago. I don't know. They could have been taken 4 months ago. Who the hell knows? So I'm a little bit suspicious of this guy's well-being, to say the least. I don't know exactly where this guy is. Now, I want to give you another story here. We're going to move on real quick. 2 days ago, no, 3 days ago. 3 days ago, we got the confirmation that Russia had expanded their intelligence sharing and military cooperation with Iran, providing satellite imagery and improved drone technology to support Tehran's targeting of U.S. forces in the region. This got reported 3 days ago. And of course, we were speculating about it. Is Iran giving them intelligence or information? We know for a fact the Chinese are. The Chinese we know. But it was always a speculation. Well, so 3 days ago, we got somewhat of a confirmation. Yes, the Russians are doing this. Well, today, we get a little addendum to this story. Today, we got a report that Russia actually offered the United States, the Trump administration, that they would stop sharing intelligence information with Iran if the United States stopped supplying Ukraine with intelligence about Russia. This is getting reported through Politico. Politico also says that the United States rejected the offer. Now, I will say this report, it's coming out of Politico. We all know what that means. Perhaps this is not a fact of the matter, but perhaps it's a big enough news potentially that I think it's worth talking about. What this would mean is that Russia is attempting to engage in what you can call sort of a tit-for-tat strategy. All right, United States, Russia here. You've been giving intelligence and information and military hardware to the Ukrainians for 4 years now. We're obviously not happy about that. In Russia, obviously, we are not happy about that. So we're going to give intelligence and equipment, drone, whatever else, satellite imagery to the Iranians. And if you're unhappy about that, well, then maybe we can reach sort of a quid pro quo. You stop giving intelligence and equipment material to the Ukrainians, and then we will stop giving whatever we're giving to the Iranians. Deal? Deal? Well, the report suggests that the U.S. actually rejected that proposal. Now, why might the U.S. reject that proposal? Think back, ladies and gentlemen, to something very curious that President Trump said, must have been about 10 days ago now. This is the first day that rumors were circulating that Russia was giving intelligence and information to the Iranians. I believe he was aboard Air Force One. A member of the media on Air Force One asked President Trump, said, Mr. Trump, Mr. President Trump, have you heard the reports that the Russians are giving intelligence to the Iranians? What do you think about that? What was Trump's response? He said something. This was 10 days ago, over a week ago. Trump said, you know, I'm not exactly sure about that. Pretty much I can't confirm or deny that, but here's what I'll tell you. If the Russians are giving intelligence to the Iranians, it doesn't matter. I'm not really worried about it because the Iranians aren't able to do anything with it. Wow. That is a big statement. He said, you know what? The Russians, they might be giving technology and satellite imagery and coordinates, whatever else, to the Iranians. But keep in mind, 10 days ago, he said, we have already beaten the living hell out of the Iranian regime so much that even if the Russians are giving them the best intelligence in the world, it doesn't matter because they can't even make use of it. They can't even make use of it properly. So kind of, who cares? That's a big statement. And so that makes sense why the U.S. would reject a proposal like this if this story is true, because it's like, who cares? Who cares? You can give them intelligence. They can't use it. You can't use it. Okay, now this also this segues into another thing that Trump actually said today. Trump spoke at some event. I'm not exactly sure what event, But anyway, Trump said this at an event earlier this morning, kind of poking fun at the Russians and at the Chinese. Take a look at this, folks. Let's actually put this one up on the big screen.
It's amazing. It's not, I don't want to get too crazy here. Not a contest. It's not even a contest. They do whatever they want. They can't, they had a lot of great equipment. Russian equipment, Chinese equipment, they had plenty of money. That equipment was useless against us, useless. No force on earth can beat the American sailors or the American military. We're the strongest in the world by far. To those standing behind me who...
And then he goes off. So what did he just say? This ties into this entire overarching notion here. Trump said, yeah, listen, the Iranians, they had all types of equipment. They spent a lot of money on military equipment. They bought it from the Chinese and they bought it from the Russians. They had the best stuff the Chinese and the Russians had to offer. Didn't really matter, did it? Didn't really matter, did it? And so Trump is just like projecting here absolute, complete, and total dominance. Over the last 2 weeks, he said, listen, if the Iranians have Chinese intelligence or Russian intelligence, kind of doesn't matter because they can't do anything with it. We've already blown them all up. What are they going to do with it? Who cares? He says, yeah, no, the Iranian regime, they had a lot of money worth of Chinese and Russian military equipment. The equipment kind of didn't matter, did it? Didn't really matter a whole lot because we just blew the living hell out of them. So he's taking this opportunity to sort of mock and ridicule the Russians and the Chinese, letting everybody know around the entire world the U.S. military is second to none. In fact, the gap, we are gapping them. The gap between the U.S. military and all of these other supposed superpowers, China, Russia, Iran, or otherwise, it's a pretty big gap. That is the message that President Trump is sending right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, if you're new to the show, do me a favor. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Welcome to the community. Before you forget about it, seriously, please do me a favor. Hit that like button and make sure to subscribe because, folks, at this point, what I would love to do is pull up some super chats and some Rumble rants. I want to see what you folks have had to say about this a lot of news today, a lot of information to get through. Things are happening very quickly. I'm telling you, seriously, the Iranian regime, they are like crumbling. They are falling apart. They're crumbling like a Christmas cookie. Okay. You ever have one? Okay. Let me pull up these super chats here. First off, we have a Rumble rant from a beautiful woman named Patty Boyer. Don't tell my wife. Hey, Patty, don't tell my wife I said that. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. She says, thanks for the details. Sound of reason. Patty, woman, I'm going to tell you something here. I hate to be a complainer. All of these podcasts, all of these shows I used to watch, these commentators, I used to respect them. I used to tune into them. Over the last 3 weeks that this conflict has broken out, you might have noticed everybody has lost their damn mind. Everybody's I hate to, echo the trope here, but President Trump, he says panicans. I'm like, when did everybody become a panican? Everybody's losing their freaking mind. We're trying to keep it cool. We're trying to keep it cool as a cucumber. Of course, we need to put on the hat. I'm going to ruin my hair. What if I wear it like that? That way I don't ruin my hair. No, we got to put it on. I'm putting it on. Okay. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everybody has lost their damn mind. Okay. Now the super chat's over here on YouTube. Oh man, we've got a lot of them here. Eric Heffelfinger. Thank you very much. He says Chuck Norris didn't pass. He walked to space to hold up the heavens. And if anybody can do it, there's only 2 people. Well, no, 3 people. Anybody that's familiar with the old Greek legends, 3 people are able to hold up the cosmos. One, of course, Atlas, the great Atlas, holding up the sky. Who? Hercules. Hercules did it one time. That was one of his labors. One of the Herculean labors. He said, Atlas, let me hold it up for a minute. He did it. And now we have a third. Who's holding up the sky? I guess it's Chuck Norris. The late, great Chuck Norris. God bless him. Rest in peace. Chuck Norris. He was a great guy. I didn't know him, but man, we all loved him. We all loved him. Craig Custer says, rip Chuck Norris. He actually died 20 years ago. It just took this long for the Grim Reaper to get the courage to tell him. Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe so. Hey, thank you, Mr. Custer. I appreciate that. Yeah, he was awesome. Thank you very much. Commander Ballwhacker. He says, thank you, Commander. He says, Chuck Norris could kill 2 stones with 1 bird. Rest in peace. He was built different. He was something else. Jesse Smith says, Chuck Norris didn't die. He just got bored and ascended. They needed a personal trainer up in heaven, or a karate master or something up there. Somebody has to teach everybody in heaven how to conduct a proper roundhouse kick. Okay, so that's where Chuck Norris is right now. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Test Channel Wow says, can we wrap this up? My portfolio's getting cooked. Hey, listen, maybe soon. Thank you very much. Old Mate says, forced my hand with the suit again. Well played. Every Friday, it is Formal Friday. Here we are. At least one day a week, we actually have to dress up for the job, you know. So you can't wear flannel every day. Well, you can. Actually, you can, and you should. You can and you should, but one day a week we're doing this. Thank you very much. L. Breitbart, he says, King Trump, let our troops take this island. Man, I'm telling you, sir, it's going to be very, very curious to see what exactly goes on here. We're talking airborne divisions. We're talking Marines. It's going to be very curious. And then Trump, of course, he's been saying for 3 weeks, nope, we're not doing boots on the ground. It's going to be curious. We'll see. Time will tell. Well, no, actually, to be clear, I want to set the right. He never said we're not doing it. He has always said it's not part of the plan currently. It's not currently part of the plan. He has never actually concretely taken it off the table, to be clear. I want to make sure. Okay. We have Joseph Torres. He says, have you heard anything about Gabbard resigning? No, I've seen people speculating. But I'm not positive. As far as I understand it, the speculation is based on the notion that somebody told Tulsi Gabbard that Joe Kent, who worked under her, he was a subordinate to her. Tulsi was presented with information that Kent was a leaker, and it kind of seems like he was. I'm not sure. I guess we don't know yet. The rumors are swirling, and that Tulsi did not fire him, even after being told or presented with evidence that he was in fact leaking. So that would be the pretense to have her fired or stepped down. I'm not sure. Time will tell. We will see. Hey, I'll tell you something here. I want to like Tulsi. I like Tulsi. I tentatively like Tulsi. I'll say this. I really sincerely hope that Tulsi Gabbard was not caught up in some type of information leaking anti-Trump agenda. I really pray that she was not, because I want to like her. I really hope she did not do that. So we'll give it time, though. Let me see here. This is from Tom. He says, great work, Matt. Happy Friday. The USS Tripoli and the Marines left Southeast Asia, and the USS Boxer just left the West Coast. That's right. You're spot on. You're right. And like we were saying, we're not sure if they're going to link up in CENTCOM area or if the Boxer is going to replace the Tripoli in Southeast Asia. We will see. In the Southwest Pacific, we will see. L. Breitbart says, rip Chuck Norris. It's true. Thank you, sir. Thank you again. Matt, donating to the haircut fund. Keep on being amazing. Yeah, you noticed I need a haircut. Yeah, I really do. I'm a little bit behind schedule. Listen, hey, it's been a busy week. It's been a busy couple days, okay? I haven't had time to leave the house. But it's true, I need a haircut. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was from Help Mama. Thank you, ma'am. Old Concrete Lizard said, Trump has proven that you can wear a hat with a suit and make it look good. Try it out with your white MAGA hat, Matt. That would be badass. I do that every Friday. What are you talking about? We do that every Friday. But it is true. It's true. Trump redefined fashion. He's a fashionista, much like his wife. They're both fashionistas, I guess. It's true. But no, we do that every single Friday. Kim Hansen, PDX, from PDX, says, screw NATO. They cost us billions. And when asked to help, we get shite out of NATO. Fend for yourselves. You know, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of NATO. Can I tell you something? Can I permission to argue against you, against me? I'm even like arguing against me. Let me give you an idea here. Is it possible that having a weak, feeble, defenseless, beholden, dependent Europe is actually in our best interest? Yes, we are giving them a lot of money. Yes, we, the US taxpayers, have been subsidizing their entire defense, effectively their entire defense, for a very long time now. And because we have been paying for everything, they haven't really stepped up and tried to be strong on their own. They've been depending on us to defend them. Is it possible that that's actually good for us? Is it possible that it's actually in our interest to have kind of a weak, feeble, dependent Europe? Maybe. I'm saying at a minimum, maybe there's an argument to be made. We're sort of like suppressing them in a way. Curious, I don't know. There's arguments going every single which way, every single which way. It's a curious conversation to have, though, at a minimum. Thank you very much. Kim Hansen from PDX, my hometown. You know, I'm from Portland. PDX. It's a real shame. It's a shame what they did. It's a shame what they did to our homeland, isn't it? Pisses me off. L. Breitbart, he says this. NATO was established against the USSR. The Cold War ended 30 years ago. The U.S. doesn't need NATO. It is true. It is explicitly created as an anti-USSR entity. It's been over 30 years. Thank you. Test Channel says, if we don't need NATO to open up the strait, why is it still closed? Seems like they are starting this operation with no plan at all to open the strait. Let me push back on you. Not a little bit, but a big bit. Do you actually think the United States intelligence community, the U.S. military, do you think that the U.S. military industrial complex has never had a plan for what to do with the Hormuz? Like, I see people posting this on Twitter, that this Hormuz situation just totally caught the U.S. military off guard. Oh my gosh, they shut down the Hormuz? Wow, that never occurred to us. It never occurred to us that they were going to do that. I'm sorry, that's like stupid. I'm sorry, I hate to be rude. That's such a stupid idea. Now, however, back to the first half of your question, why is it still closed? Because believe it or not, even though we have the mightiest military in the world by far, very clearly, we can't just snap our fingers and make things happen. It takes time to accomplish our objective, our strategic objectives. We can't just, it takes time. It takes time. Right now, you're seeing this campaign get waged. Right now, we are taking out all of these IRGC locations along the coast of the Hormuz. Step 1, step 2, step 3. There's a whole longitudinal process here. The fact that it hasn't been done yet does not serve as concrete proof that there was no plan. They had no plan. That's just like ridiculous. Come on, that's just like ridiculous. Of course they had a plan. Thank you, Test Channel. I appreciate that. Now, do we have any other super chats here? Tammy P says, this is down on Rumble, a Rumble rant, says, I am so grateful you have been giving us the news. Hey, thank you, Tammy P. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And by the way, thank you for being a part of the community. Thank you, Tammy. We also have MK Ultra 3120 says, I see Bean Holloway. I don't know what that's about. Thank you, though. I appreciate that $5 Rumble rant down there. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good Lord. We went a little bit into overtime today. This was one hell of a show. We had a lot of news to go through. Thank you all very much for tuning in. There's a possibility we will be back tonight. It kind of depends on whether or not there's stuff to talk about. So we might be back tonight. If not, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Western, 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, if not tonight. I'll have some videos for you tonight, of course, on Rumble and YouTube. But other than that, I want to say thank you all very sincerely. Thank you all very much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Before you forget, you'd better do it. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Until I see you next, everybody, God bless, stay safe, and thank you very much.